have two new friends today, so we can just yeah, or maybe okay, yeah, come. Hmm? Yes. If you can just introduce yourselves to also the others, which department and okay. DRT is okay. Thank you. Okay. Welcome. And yeah, thank you so much for all your patience and your listening yesterday. And today we'll again go through different concepts and sharings. And but before that, we just wanted to do a small recap also of yesterday. So I'm going to give you each one sticky note. You can have one or two. Just want you to write down two or three main insights that you've got from yesterday. Anything, yeah, anything. It can be insights from yesterday, whatever that we heard, whatever that we understood. Ask this. Come. Anybody wants to share? Oh, okay.
You can start.
Anybody would like to just share any insights from yesterday? Yeah, whatever you learned, any insights that you got.
Anything that you heard yesterday that you felt strongly about or stuck with you, even from the exercises?
Just stand up and you want to come here? Okay. Little louder. People can hear.
So we learn is various options and what actually straighten process. Also, we start like when we try that activity, so triangle,
The ball. Yeah.
See that the low strata we talk about power.
Yeah.
Power. Now, so what we need to do is a question. Power term shift the power. In some shift the power. Shift the power should be like being someone perfect. What I'm saying is that fact that when it comes to shifting power, you can need to direct the efforts. People who can actually make yes, it's smoking with very less power. Yes, I don't think this is awareness. It's more of action.
Yeah.
Talking about awareness, fine, small audience, but nonetheless, audience, it's action based change, efforts to direct such a training.
So you're saying that how do we actually empower so that people can also make a difference, yeah, to the situation and be able to act. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So you understood this connection of power and gender. Yeah. Sure. Thank you. Anybody else?
Jen?
Would you like to? Yeah.
Since I was not there for the class yesterday, I would just like to say to me, gender is a biological concept. I still would identify gender with sex. So I was not there yesterday, so I've come as a blank slate. So
Sure. So we'll talk of that now.
regarding gender,
Yeah.
so that is what I have in mind.
Yeah.
So what we're learning today is, and one more thing regarding when we're talking about gender biasness and all this.
Yeah.
We are empowered as women. I feel we are empowered in our own fields.
Right.
Men are empowered in their own fields.
Yeah.
When we talk about in our education department,
Yes.
women are there. We have more women working, more women workforce, which means we are more empowered in the education department because it's a line of work that we need more women.
Yeah.
So in the police department, we have more men. So men are empowered. That is the line of what we're bringing for men. So that is what I have.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for being so honest that you've come here with a very open mind. We'll talk about what we learned yesterday a little bit, and we'll try and clarify the concepts a little before we move. Yeah. Anybody from here? Even here? Just say whatever is coming to your mind, because this is a learning space. Remember, there's not an examination. We all come here to discuss and try and get something. So don't worry about being right or wrong, about understanding, not understanding. Don't worry. Just
And
go
our
ahead.
sharing also helps others to
Yes.
connect and reflect.
Your sharing is a gift to other people, to connect and reflect.
Michelle? She wants to share. One in this.
Sure. Come, please.
What really was an eye opener for me yesterday was this difference between gender and sex.
Yeah.
Because all along we always thought it was the same, but after we learned yesterday, we actually know that there's a difference between the two.
What is the difference?
Gender is actually the social differences, and sex are the physical difference. And gender is what we acquire, and sex is ascribed.
Yeah, right. Thank you. So that's what we spoke about actually. Yes, sure.
Gender is what we acquire. Then what are the different genders that are there?
Yeah. So we spoke of that yesterday, and there is a note that Joy will Xerox and also give all of you. We spoke about something called a gender-bred person, which the gender identity is different from your biological sex that you're born into, and that could be even transgender, male, female, and whatever that people identify with as their biological sex. And that we are saying that, is not necessarily the same as your sexual feeling, that you may have emotional feeling towards somebody else. So all these are all very nuanced understanding of not just a male female kind of a thing. So what they said is very right, that here in our sessions we are differentiating sex as being biological and gender as being a social construct, like many constructs that society gives us to divide people. Like you have class, rich, poor, you have ethnicities, religion, which also divides. Gender is one of those constructs that the society builds up to say that men, women, and others are supposed to behave in a particular way. And we are saying men and women largely here because that's what society is pushing, that concept. They don't even recognize others. Yeah, we find it very difficult to recognize transgender and even other people. We spoke about the absence of transgenders in Shillong. How come there are no transgenders visibly? Because then they don't have the space. So therefore, here we were restricting ourselves to male, female, and the kind of constructs that happen because of that. Yeah. Thank you for that sharing. I hope it becomes a bit clearer as we go. Anybody else? So we spoke about gender, and you gave the difference between sex and gender. That's very clear. Thank you. Anybody else? Any other thing from the exercises, the power walk we did, the game that we played? And why is gender a problem? And how does gender identity create inequality between men and women? Anybody? Yeah, please. So what happens because of that? If the society expects us to behave like this as men and behave like this as women, so what happens because of that? Anybody? You remember the exercises we did? You know, when we listed down all the qualities, and remember those lines we drew, and just looking at two lines, you all said that this is male, this is female, right? And they were just two lines, but it's so ingrained within us, gender, that minute we see something, it comes. That this is male, this is female, and this is how women are supposed to behave, this is how men are supposed to behave.
The professions.
Huh?
The professions.
The professions we did, right? And I spoke about position, power, decision making. Remember that exercise we did? Yeah? Among those papers here somewhere.
Yeah, it's within this chart.
I'm just doing also so that they can share this. You remember these lines we drew? Okay, how immediately I could say this is male, this is female. Yeah. And even this we spoke about. Yeah. And we spoke about this intersectionalities. Yeah. That gender is just one identity that we all have. We have so many identities which make us what we are. But a lot of focus is given on this. And we actually embody, it becomes a part of us, the way we think, the way we dress, the way we feel, the what work that we do. It's so gendered. Yeah. So, because of that, you remember this also? So, because of that, we are unable to really cross those stereotypes that are made for us, those boxes that are kept for us. Yeah. You remember we spoke of this, the work that women did. So therefore, we also said education is largely women. Because women are meant to be, what are the characteristics of women? How are they meant to be? Soft, caring, nurturing, yeah, which everybody should be, all human beings should be. But why only women? Okay. Similarly, men are supposed to be, yeah, how are men supposed to behave? Strong, yeah, strong, assertive, leader, yeah. Therefore, roles of men are all this. Okay, right now in society. But we also said that it need not change. It need not always be like that. And there are people crossing the boundaries, but there are very few. Stereotypes are still very, very strong in our society. It forces men to be in a certain way, it forces women to be in a certain way. Okay, so I'll just, anybody else, one more insight and then we'll wrap up. You all want to give an insight? Anybody? Anything that you feel about yesterday? Just one more and then we can just wrap up. Any insight from your side? Which activity? That's standing in the line. That outside?
No. The drawing of the line.
This. Okay.
Because at first I didn't. First when I saw the circles, I didn't think
Could be.
because then like options were given.
Yeah.
That so
yeah.
Of course it's for me I think it's relative because if you compare not instant men,
mainstream, not women.
For example, me, I'm a bit smaller than.
So you're looking at physical size. Yeah.
So it's not, it's relative. It's not like it's a gender thing.
Yeah.
Different society, and also when it comes to environment.
Yeah.
environment actually affects the growth of each individual, each area. Europeans are much taller, much bigger,
Right.
than Indians, North
Yeah.
Indians are much bigger. So it's it might be like environmental factors also one of them. So
Yeah.
you can't just say it's
Yeah.
it's also environment.
That's true. I agree with that. That it could be actual physical size that we are looking at. But usually what happens is that it's not just the physique that we look at. Many other things play in our mind. When you think of, power, position, sizes, yeah. First thing that comes is small would be woman and big would be man. Many a times for many things. Yeah. What you own, what you have, yeah, what you can do, cannot do. Lot of that mindset comes. But I absolutely agree that it is. So that's one thing that I also want to say, that there is no gold standard of what is gender. What is gender in one place is not in another place. Okay. Yesterday we spoke about that. Yeah. Like, for example, wearing, even like skirt or tunics. Have you heard of some men wearing it in some countries? Like Scotland,
Bhutan.
yeah. You see, no? Men wear tunics. But here in our society, would it be acceptable? No, because that's not our context. So gender is also very contextual. Okay, remember that. So you have to see in the context of Meghalaya. What is gender over here may not be gender somewhere else. But the question to ask us is that, are we completely equal, a society? Yeah, is there domination of some over another? Okay, and can we work at reducing that? Yeah, and I think yesterday we also came up with this whole debate of matriarchy versus patriarchy. Remember that? And does matrilineal mean matriarchal? And does it have to be matriarchal? And what did we say? The opposite of patriarchy is what? What do we want? Huh? Equality. Remember, we said the opposite of patriarchy for us is not matriarchy. We do not want women up there and men down here. Yeah, because right now somewhere men are up here for many things. Okay, they're holding position, power. Yeah, we looked at politics. We looked at society, leaders. A lot of men are on top holding positions of power. Okay. Whereas women are somewhere here. So the opposite of patriarchy is not matriarchy but equality. Okay. And what we are saying is equality for us, gender equality is like 4 wheels of a vehicle. Imagine right now your wheels are like very, very nice and solid in these two sides, and one is deflated. And I think Inakshi is going to show us, the figures here of Meghalaya, what's happening, the status of women. And somewhere it's down here. Okay. So therefore, how far can your vehicle go? Will there be a problem? Will you be able to move ahead as a society? If 2 tires are very good and 2 are very weak, no air in it or punctured, will your vehicle go very far? It won't. So somewhere we'll have to see that, it's balanced. Yeah, and that's what we are saying is it. Okay, so I'll end there. We also did this, if you remember. This is the triangle of patriarchy. Yeah, we spoke about deprivation, discrimination, and atrocities as the way that women are kept down. And what did I say is behind all acts of violence against women and girls? Is it alcohol? Is it what? Huh? Yeah, power. Yeah, the way that patriarchy operates is through power. And power is behind every act of violence, whether physical violence or what are the other types of violence we spoke about? Yeah.
Men.
Emotional, physical, economic violence and sexual violence. There is also social violence, which leads to mental violence. Okay. For example, like some people keep, women not having interactions with family, with other people, yeah, keep them isolated. Okay. That's also a form of mental violence. You keep isolation. So just remember, all try and just have that kind of background. Uh, Lastly, I just want to say that, yesterday we saw that gender does not really help women or men. Men have so much of expectations placed on them. Okay, the way you're supposed to act, the way you're supposed to dress, the roles you're supposed to perform, there's a lot of pressure on men. What you're supposed to do, not supposed to do. You can't cry. Yeah? You can't do a lot of things. Similarly for women, you're expected to perform your role in be a great mother, be a great wife, be a great, worker, all everything. And there's a lot of pressure on women. And yet look after family, be great, be good, lot of things. So we are saying that gender doesn't help. What we want is that whatever that we are as human beings, we should have the right to live our full potential. So if a woman wants to be a very good footballer, why not? If she has the potential for it. If a man wants to be a great seamstress and wants to sew, and that's their potential and skill, why not? Okay, so that's where gender is a problem. It makes these boxes and stereotypes, yeah, and it does not allow people to live their full potential. Thank you. I'll just end with that. Inakshi?
I'm just wondering, we have the break at 10:30, 11:30, right? So just continuing the conversation as it was yesterday of deepening our understanding of gender, and today, like we said, we will work more on the state perspective, and also since all of you are representing government departments, from a government's perspective, we will keep more focus on those kinds of roles. And but the also emphasis of it being a collective effort of individual, government and others. So we'll keep all of that in the discussion today. So like what we understood yesterday, that there is a gender imbalance somewhere. It's not a balanced situation. There is an imbalance. There is a situation where there are times when the power is more with the men, or there are patriarchal thought processes even with the women, which is leading to a gender imbalance. So it is patriarchy, like what we said yesterday, is not only about men, it is also women themselves thinking in a particular way, which is not gender equitable or gender balanced. So what is gender equality or gender empowerment. It basically, as per the UN population information, it has 5 components. Sense of self-worth. Every human being has a right of sense of self-worth. A person has to enjoy that feeling of having the sense of self-worth. If that is somewhere being affected, then there is a gender imbalance. And it could be any way. It could be towards male, female, others. Yeah. Right to have and to determine choices. If you are a good dancer as a boy, how easy it is to become a dancer? How much is it encouraged? If I like to dance, I'm a boy and I like to dance, I want to take that as a profession, how much would that be encouraged within the family? Not much. So I cannot make a choice. Even if I want to, I'll have to do something like what we all talked yesterday. We'll have to do something different. Because perhaps my gender, even if I'm a girl, it is okay. But if I'm a boy, it's far more difficult. You know, I want to do adventure sport. But being a girl, my family will say, it's too dangerous, beta. Had you been a boy, I would have allowed. You are a girl, I will not. So that right to determine choices is something which also impacts equality or equity. Right to have access to opportunities and resources. We saw the gender walk yesterday, the power walk, where so many people were left behind and while some have been able to come forward. And it is because of various circumstances. It is not only gender, but gender perpetuates that situation. You know, the 16-year-old girl who got pregnant. What is the opportunities? Could she avail? Could she move forward? She got pregnant. So many opportunities, others walked ahead and she just looked. Because she's a woman, right? So whatever in terms of access to opportunities and resources, because of your situation, a poor farmer in a particular district, yeah, because of the remoteness, because of the vulnerability, you are not able to take the resources. So those vulnerabilities of people have to be considered. Especially when you are all in government positions or positions where you can influence change. Right to have power to control their own lives both within and outside home. You know, what is the level of control that I have over my own life, my own decisions which will impact me? What is the space that I have for that? And does that differ because of being a male or a female or another? Ability to influence the direction of social change to create a more just social and economic order. Locally, nationally or internationally. So what is the space for each individual to be able to influence direction of a social change? Are all stakeholders being given this opportunity to have a say on things which matter in their society? do all stakeholders have a say in matters regarding their society? No. Can you give an example to why you say no, or an explanation? So who decides? The one who has power. And who has the power normally in our society? So who is leading? It's the men. Like how? What is the structure? It's the top rank officials or politicians, or if you look at society, it's the Torbarshinong. Does it have equal representation of all people? It would not. So then you are not being able to influence the direction of social change. And these are the parameters on which it is seen whether there is gender empowerment or gender equality happening or not. What thought comes to your mind when you see this picture? You're running a race, right? So what is the thought that comes to your mind? What are you seeing there? Yeah. What is the thought? Yeah? Huh? They are racing. Is it an equitable race? No? Why, ma'am? Why is it not an equitable race? What are you? Yeah. Sure. Sure. Yeah. Many here would have never felt that. Yeah. Definitely. And that's why we did the power walk yesterday, of putting people in characters in different situations. One in a person in a remote Garo Hills, South Garo Hills, a lady who got pregnant at the age of 16, which perhaps I will never, or I have the social security which will not allow me to do that, or the intellectual. But as a society as a whole, where are we? Because I am not only responsible for myself, but of the entire community that I represent, of the entire state that I represent, of the entire nation that I represent. So when we look at that holistic environment, then where are we? Are there such situations happening somewhere? Even if it's 1, 2, it does matter to that particular individual, right? It can be. It can be. So if it is happening the other way around also, if the women are not burdened by looking after children and men are being the caregivers, men are being the home caretakers, and women are just allowed to, earn the money, do her own choice of things, leisure time. Like we had that yesterday, leisure time. Are you allowed to go with friends and have that leisure time? If that space is there, that's perfectly. Then it is also, it might happen the reverse way also. But we need to visualize and be honest as a state. What is our situation? What do we think? Is women less burdened in the state of Meghalaya? They don't have children rearing responsibility. Men share equally? He's shaking his head. Yes or no? Because some states they also say yes like this. So what is it that you're saying? Yeah. Single mothers is highest in the state of Meghalaya in the country. So where is the burden lying?
So they always hang on to the fathers, even if they want.
Why they don't? Why? Why is the question? Because they feel that they are not responsible enough, or is there a situation that we need to address somewhere? But he,
We feel that mothers are the ones who can care the best. Mothers also feel but why? I mean, just look at the roots of it. Where does that thinking come that I will not allow my child, or my husband doesn't feel confident that I will, be able to. But as a mother, you will not take that.
what was your saying? You were saying about the rural context, and you see a lot. So can you just share that? What's the rural scenario like? What you were saying? Yeah, and yeah. And why is it always because of the separation, or why not enough responsibility taken, or what? Bad. It is. There are matrilineal societies, others also. Yeah. So, basically there is an inequality somewhere, whichever way, and there is this kind of a situation happening where there is a pressure on either side, or there is a problem somewhere. So, it is a process and an outcome of a process by which women or gender minorities challenge against discrimination in all the institutions and structures of society. Yeah.
From the wife, from the mother, from the clan.
Yeah. And that's why I'm saying, see, if it's a choice, yeah, but that's what. Yeah, yeah, that's why it's a social structure as a whole that you need to think about. If it is fair and equal for everyone, there is no issue. But if there are situations which are creating, I think as a structure, there is a need for a thought process, is what, again, as a community, you all need to think. It is not for anyone to come and say anything on that. But as a community, what is it? And as, especially as people in positions in governance, what is it that you all need to think about and reflect about? Yeah. And that is where the whole thing of choice, opportunities and resources, whether it is there for everyone equally or not, those are things that need to be talked about. So, if we come to the global progress towards gender equality, and this is not, gender equality is not a situation only for India or only for Asia, it is world over. There is sexual harassment at workplace happening in America as much as it is happening here. There are rapes happening globally anywhere as it is happening here. So, these are international phenomena, and the whole issue of gender divide has been there historically, and it has not been an easy journey towards those. There are a lot of feminist movements and other movements which are there, but I am only talking about the international governance community taking action on such issues. And the first landmark thing was in 1911, when first celebration of International Women's Day was held, organized by a lot of countries together. Then in June 1945, gender equality was enshrined in the United Nations Charter. So, United Nations recognized that this is an issue that needs to be worked on and has enshrined into its charter. The other landmark thing was in 1979, when CEDAW, an international bill for women's rights, was passed in the UN Assembly. And this is one of the most important documents that guides the entire global women's rights activism or gender equality work, is guided by this document. And then if we look in 1995, there was this conference on women in Beijing, again, which was a very, very landmark document, and you all can browse that. And from there on, there were the Millennium Development Goals, the passage of the UN Security Council, where even in peace processes, women's role was reinforced. The whole journey started in 1911, but only in 2010 did UN really bring about the creation of UN Women. UNICEF came long years back, UN for Refugee Services, UNDP, all that came but UN Women came only in, it is the newest edition, one of the newest edition to the UN. UN Women came in 2010. In 2015, there is the adoption of the Sustainable Development Goals, which we all know. And which SDG talks about gender equality? SDG 5 talks about gender equality. So globally, governments are committed to work towards gender equality. And that is one of the main reasons that we are sitting here together for these 3 days talking about gender equality. Because there is a commitment from the state towards bringing about gender equality. And the starting point is understanding the requirement of understanding gender equality, and then initiating steps towards it. And that is where this trainings on gender by the government is being taken far more aggressively and strong. We'll break for tea and then look a little more on the SDG, what it is talking about, and again the statistics for the state. 10 minutes tea break. Downstairs. Also going to help us think more as to what we can. Yeah, it really helps. It really helps. Because, yeah, that's discuss and then the understand the perspectives. Yeah. Your perspective. That is very important. Thank you for contributing. We'll go for tea.
I think just your questions help many other people because it's great. Space.
And thank you to you for bringing out a personal context to the whole. We have a few new participants joined in. Since yesterday we've been talking about gender and all the different dimensions and things like that. But since we have a lot to cover still, we will not be able to go back and trace all that. We did a brief recap in the morning. So we'll move ahead, and if there is anything that you all want to share or discuss further, we can do it while in the session. You can ask, or even later during breaks. So like where we ended is the Sustainable Development Goals. I think that is one of the critical element in today's context, which all governments are answerable to, and that is where gender equality being one of the SDGs, a lot of priority is also being given. And like what I was saying, the UN Convention for Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, this convention document actually was the guideline which set the tone of why gender equality is very, very important, and is something that all nations need to work on. And that's where all signatories to the UN, India being one of them, is taking this very, very significantly forward, and then comes in the Sustainable Development Goals. When we look at SDG 5, which is about achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls, the focus has been kept and maintained on women and girls, and certain indicators have been laid out to state why it is important to work on this. One is SDG 5.1, the targets. It has given targets for each of the government, and below these targets there are also indicators. So the first target is end all forms of discrimination against women and girls everywhere. So like we saw yesterday, the triangle of patriarchy, we saw that there is discrimination, there is deprivation, there is atrocities. And we cannot deny that it is not there in any of our societies. So that needs to be worked on. Eliminate all forms of violence against all women and girls in public and private spheres, including trafficking, sexual and other types of exploitation. We have seen there is a lot of trafficking of girls that happen from the northeast. So again, it is talking about working on all forms of violence against women. The first is talking about discrimination, the second is talking about violence against women. So when we are talking about violence against women, things like the DV Act has come within this. The Domestic Violence Act was brought about because of this indicator, because of this target, so that is how it is influencing the policy of the state and the nation. Women's Commission, do we get domestic violence cases? There are. So there are domestic violence cases even in the state of Meghalaya. Eliminate all harmful practices such as child, early or forced marriage and female genital mutilation. Early marriage, child marriage. We all know the implication of early marriage and child marriage, and the impact it has on women. So gender equality is about that. Many a times, the early marriage or the child marriage could happen because of ignorance and not by force, but it is happening, and it is not something that is good for the state and for the nation or for the society as a whole. So that is where, because especially for a child marriage, it is the state's responsibility to ensure that that is not happening. Recognize and value unpaid care and domestic work through the provisions of public services, infrastructure, social protection policies, promotion of shared responsibilities within the household and the family as national priority. Again, when we saw the roles that women and men take, we saw that a lot of roles that women and men take, women have a lot of unpaid roles that they play as compared to men. So, SDG 5, under SDG 5.4, the target 4 is about seeing ways on how this can be addressed and recognized. Whenever there is this question, what does your wife do if she is not working? Or if she is not employed somewhere, what will be the answer? Oh, she does nothing. But is it that she does nothing? No. She's taking care of children, taking care of house, She has so much responsibility that but is that recognized? Neither financially, neither sometimes not even emotionally, or even with the due respect that is required. Yeah. So, I think that element of power also, which we were talking yesterday, should not get shifted just because resources is somewhere else. The point 5, ensure full and effective participation and equal opportunity of leadership in all levels of decision making in political, economic and public life. Again, this is talking about women's leadership, opportunity for leadership in political, economic and public life. The 6th point is ensure access to sexual and reproductive health and reproductive rights as agreed in accordance to the Program Action of International Conference on Population and Development. So, health and particularly reproductive health of women, because that is a very, very important element of a woman's life and for the society as a whole. So, that is where the reproductive health is being given a lot of emphasis. There are 3 sub-points. Undertake reforms to give women equal rights and economic resources as well as ownership and control over land and other forms of property, financial services, inheritance and natural resources. Globally, there are issues around it, perhaps might not be as true for Meghalaya, but these are things which have been made keeping a global perspective. Enhance use of enabling technologies, information technology, education among women and girls is to be promoted. Adopt and strengthen sound policies, enforceable legislations for the promotion of gender equality and empowerment of all women and girls at all levels. So, even the policy strengthening and legislation strengthening is an important part of SDG 5. So, it is not only the UN or the international treaties, but also our Constitution of India has this element of equality of women. And it talks about the state to adopt measures of positive discrimination in favor of women. A lot of time there are these questions of all schemes for women, all legislations for women, why? It is because of the indicators that define the status of women, that they need certain reservations or certain positive discrimination in their favor, so that the inequalities that exist are addressed or the poor indicators are met and addressed, and only when there is an equilibrium, then things would be said to be better off. So, since 1995, since the UN has been pushing nations and the nation has, India has signed the convention, what has been the change? Are there still issues of women that are existent? I would really like to hear from some of you. What do you think are issues of women in the state of Meghalaya? Are there any issues? So what are they, sir? If you could mention a few. Any indicators that you all have heard about, or harassment, abuse? So what form of harassment abuse? Sexual. There is harassment and abuse that happens. So abuse even in the homes of domestic violence. Anyone else wants to share any thoughts? Yeah, from the Commission's perspective, what you are seeing, if you can share something. Domestic violence. And why do you think domestic violence, now that you are experiencing cases and hearing people? To exert the power, the pressure. Yes, ma'am. You want to say something? Sure, please. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. But what would be a more number of cases, or the vulnerability? Yeah. So that is the also the reverse. So gender is not only about women, what we were saying. Gendering, this stereotyping, this bracketing also has an impact on the men. Because men cannot express. They feel it will impact their thing. Men also cannot cry, like what we said. There is a statistics that heart attacks is higher with men. What is crying? Crying is a mechanism of pressure balance. Distress ko nikalo. We women wail it out and cry and are free. Men cannot. What happens? As a result, BP बढ़ गया, heart attack, stroke हो गया. In many of these, those high, that thing, no, they don't allow men above an age, because there is a high probability of, there's so much of suppression of emotion that happens. Very true. So we don't want to create any form of inequality. It should be equal for both, but statistically, and also given the whole space of power and dominance now still very high among the men, and the vulnerability of women being lower, that is where this is more important to be addressed. But that's why we are saying that the cases are much more with the women. The vulnerability is much more with the women as of now. So you disagree, sir? Yeah. Very true. In Meghalaya, perhaps that's a talk that needs to happen. there are exceptions, and there are a proportion which is happening. Like when we do.
That's why yesterday, if you remember, we kept saying that it's not about men. Right? This is about the social system of India, in which women also misuse their power. And exploitation of another group of people.
That's the
Because you are
psyche.
in power and you have that psyche of wanting to exploit, put down, and misuse your power, that is something that we are doing. And at this moment, a lot of that power is in the hands of men. But women can also exploit when they are in power. Okay, and that's why you have both cases. Yeah? We are not saying that it doesn't happen, and let's not acknowledge or address it. But right now, it is loaded against a lot of women. Okay, and we are talking about vulnerable women. Maybe not women of our class always. Not that I believe that women from our class are also not exploited, or or there's no domestic violence in our classes. But let's remember the vulnerable and those who we need to work for. And so it's not about men or women, this whole battle. It's about this mindset called patriarchy, which perpetuates differences and not working together.
We have a sure. So let's look at the progress of the SDGs in Meghalaya. And the figures here have been taken from the Northeast Region Division of SDG, which came out in 2021 by Niti Aayog. So before I show the statistics, let me also acknowledge that there has been a progress on the SDGs in the state of Meghalaya. From the previous report to this report, there has been a the ranking of Meghalaya has gone up. Its points has increased. In fact, in certain points, Meghalaya has scored complete 100%. Like in the goal 8 of decent work and economic growth. Economic growth, it has got 100%. Full that thing. In life on land, agri and horti, it's doing well. In reduction of inequalities, goal 10, it is doing well. Goal 12, responsible consumption and production, in that also it is doing. There are certain indicators that it is doing well, but on a certain indicators it is not doing well, and certain districts is impacting it even higher. Within the 7 states, within the 8 states, Meghalaya is on the 7th position. The first, of course, is Sikkim. Sikkim is very high across India. The last is Nagaland, and just above Nagaland is Meghalaya. Out of the 103 districts, these figures are for 103 districts. Ranking the best performing district, Meghalaya was in the 57th, and North Garo Hills is the 98th position. Meghalaya's ranking is low in health and well-being of infant and maternal mortality, and continues to be high in nearly all districts. So health, major concern. Quality of education, while Khasi Hills comes on the 25th, Southwest Garo Hills comes at the 98th position among 103 districts. So we pride our education. It is good in East Khasi Hills, but when we look at West Garo Hills, this is the status. The goal 5, East Khasi Hills is ranked at 95, West Garo faring better at 78. South Garo Hills and Southwest Khasi Hills is on the 100th position. This is SDG 5. Gender and equality, where in the index of gender and equality, East Khasi Hills is at 95. So when I was looking at the list, I see a lot of districts even in, we say, backward districts on Bihar, UP.
So there's a whole
The
lot
indicators which you saw the
the
indicators,
SDG
SDG.
indicators which I
We can have a statistical justification for ourselves, but we have Sikkim as a smaller state. Sikkim is still smaller than Meghalaya. It is much higher. Yeah, but you were comparing Bihar and Meghalaya. Yeah. Yeah, so as a state, should we be more, yeah. So those are the things that we need to think about. That is where the government role is, to make sure that there is equality and inclusiveness and equity.
We spoke about equity.
The equity lens comes in here.
That's
why
the
is
equity
this?
lens
Yeah,
is important. We
that's
made
where.
difference now between equality and equity. So equity is very important.
So then we have to focus our resources there, our efforts there, our programming there as a government official. That's the effort, we need to make as people in the planning department to see how, allocations are happening. We'll talk about gender budgeting tomorrow. Surely. But it is also the inclusive whole community, implication on how we want to make our state progressive and things like that. Some more data I will just quickly run through. The sex ratio is, now it is 1000, but again, like we talked yesterday, the sex ratio of under 5 is low. So that's something that we need to be concerned. Otherwise, it is 1000 plus now, as per NFHS 5. Female literacy rate is 72, which is good, but if we look at the percentage of women who are completing 10 years of schooling, is only 35%. While overall literacy is high, but people who are having more than 10 years, which means are going for higher education, is a concern. A lot more to do on this. The SR test done in 2022, Pratham is an organization which does SR test, the education department has been doing. The 2022 report says 70% of the 8th graders in rural areas cannot do division. So the quality of education is something that we need to think about. Looking at maternal health, Meghalaya IMR is 34 per 1000 and MMR is 197. 16% of women, 16.9, almost 17% of women in the age of 20 to 24 in Meghalaya were married before age of 18. Early marriage, in fact, rather child marriage, 17%. So what happens to this population of girls who are marrying early? The data shows that 72% of the women in the age group of 19 to 50 are already married, already pregnant at the time of the survey. So, lot of early pregnancies. Adolescent fertility is 49. A higher rate of this shows that there is a lot of teenage pregnancies. 43% of mothers in Meghalaya have consumed folic acid. So, even when you look at the health indicators, are they being, the reproductive health, is it being taken care of? 53% of the women have anemia. 14% show that women in Meghalaya do not have the knowledge of HIV and AIDS. Indicates 27% of the women are currently using family planning methods. When we look at crime against women, 16% of women between the age of 18 to 94 in Meghalaya reported experiencing spousal violence. 16% of women, even during pregnancies, 1.6% have undergone physical violence during pregnancies. 0.5% women reported experiencing sexual violence. 41% reported crime, of the crimes reported are crimes against women. Now again, this is said that there is high reporting, which is a good indicator, that is why the percentage is high. But the fact remains that there is crime against women. According to 75 reported cases in Meghalaya in the year 2021, the women's empowerment per se indicators as given in NFHS 5, they say that 92.3% currently married women said that they usually participate in the household decisions. So that element is good, we need not worry, but I think there are the other elements that we need to think about. 40% of women in Meghalaya in the age group of 15 to 49 years worked in the last 12 months and received cash. So in the paid economy or in the economic setup, the women workforce in the economy is actually 40%. We see a lot of women, so we feel that there is a high percentage, but I think this is also something that we need to think about. 65% of women in Meghalaya own houses and land. 70% of women have bank accounts. And this is the Legislative Assembly representation. For the last few years, there is a problem with this thing. So till 2018 the list was showing, it is not showing here.
Because of the sizing, yeah.
Sizing is not correct.
Change the size.
So if we see, this is the representation of women who have stood for elections and which have been elected. So representation, political representation is also low. So who do you think is responsible to bring about gender equity? What are your thoughts? There are a lot of things to work on. So who should be working? Any thoughts? Whose responsibility is it? The society as a whole. Very true. Yeah. It starts with the self, family, like what you said. Even if we start talking to our own children or behaving in a fair manner, with our own children. It starts from there. Self, family, the village community, and the society, which includes market, law, media, politics. Like what we said, the commodification of women should not happen. You know? Like, why should when you're showing a bike advertisement, show a sexy woman like this? You're commodifying the women, and that gives an implication to the young minds. So there has to be responsible behavior at all levels to make sure there is gender equity, and everyone needs to work on this. Thank you. Jenny will take us forward for the next
So thank you, Inakshi. So that these were some statistics and numbers that we put forward before you. You know, yesterday we were talking more in general about gender and what's happening. And today we are trying to see that in the state of, Meghalaya, what's actually happening. Yeah. And we saw some statistics with people, you come from the community. Now we'll slowly move towards action. Okay, so what I'm going to present before you is not from Meghalaya. Yeah, it's a little far from here, and this is not the only action that's possible. Not at all. Okay, but now we want you to start thinking a little bit. If this is the situation, how does one move? What are the things we can do? And Inakshi just spoke about the various levels at which we need to act. Okay, so what I'm going to talk to you about is some of these things that could be possible. Okay, and these are not the only things again, but these are experiments that have been tried out. Yeah, this is work that I've been personally involved with. Yeah, and from here I'm going to take you to this framework for action. So we look at each of this action from the terms of a planning framework. That when you plan action for women's empowerment, what are the things, what are the dimensions one could think of? Again, this is not the only framework, but I just find this framework very simple and easy to understand and implement. That's why I'll just present that to you. Okay. This is the one?
Yeah.
Which you this one. This one? Okay, so I'm just calling it a practitioner's thing. Okay, I'm going to take you to Bodoland. Yeah, Bodoland is in Western Assam. It's a small place, and that's where we've been working largely. I've been working personally there for the past 20 years, and I'm going to talk about some of the stories, and I'm just going to give you photo stories. Yeah, this is not a very big theoretical presentation. I'm going to tell you stories of what we've done with women. This is the context where we work. You know, it's an area which has large land erosion, fragile kind of place. Yeah, I'm not sure if many of you would have heard of Bodoland. Yeah, you might be aware of this area, which has seen a lot of struggle. We have sand mining, stone mining in a very big way. This is our only economy. Like I'm sure you understand here also. Yeah, largely rural population. Almost 90-95% of our people live in villages. Bodos, but also many other communities. So the Bodo population is just 30%, but a lot of other communities here. These are forests. A lot of our places are in forest areas. So this is some school in the forest area. Very poor infrastructure. Improved a lot in the past 10-15 years, but still a long way to go. We have elephant raids, human-elephant conflicts in these areas. Conflict has been one of the main issues over there for the past 30 years. We are right now in a post-conflict situation, but for 30 years this area was ravaged by both militant and also ethnic conflicts. Yeah. So this is just a very, very quick background. In that background, then we started working, and women and gender equality has been one of our main focus in all these years because of the various issues to do with women. So I'll just talk about a few of the initiatives. Uh, See, mobility of women is very, very important for women's empowerment. If women cannot get from one place to the other, how do you access markets? How do you access like hospitals? How do you access schooling? How do you access even like a woman going to a self-help group meeting, yeah, or to a VO meeting in the village? So therefore, women's mobility is a very big thing. In 2004, we realized that in our area we had no public transport because of the various issues over there. So we started something called a cycle bank. Okay. Interestingly, so we started a cycle bank because we felt that if women could start moving and mobility could be got, we'd start. But most married women didn't know how to cycle. Or if they knew how to cycle, they never owned a cycle, so they forgot how to cycle. So we had to do many things like start camps, and then married women at that time were not allowed to cycle. People would laugh at them. Only girls took the cycle and boys took the cycle to school. Men use cycles. Cycle it's a very simple thing. It costs like 5,000 rupees now, 6,000 rupees. At that time, 2,000 rupees. But a 2,000 rupee asset in a poor household, when it first comes, men never thought of women's cycle. If there's money, you buy a man's cycle. Okay, and women with our clothing, with what they wore, whether it's a sari or your mekla chador or your dokhana, couldn't get onto a man's cycle. But men could get onto women's cycles. So we thought that that's a way, let's promote cycling as a means of empowerment. But to do that, we had to do cycle camps, cycle races to see women cycling and to teach women cycling. Yeah? In areas where women were not allowed to get onto cycles, okay, or people would laugh at them, we had these rallies, where you take, women's through these areas to make it more visible. So a cycle is a very simple thing, but here it could be anything else. Yeah. Right now we are looking at actually motorcycles and scooty for women. We move from there. But we started with cycle. Look at this, like you can use it for many things like fetching water, fetching firewood, even like airy leaves for silkworm cultivation. Okay. So when women started getting access to cycle, markets opened up to them. Okay, make work a lot easier. Our women started coming up to leadership positions because they could attend meetings outside their village. Earlier, to get to another village took a lot of time. Okay, so therefore all these things started happening. But my favorite is this. Muslim villages, and Muslim women have a bigger barrier also in our area. Yeah? So in Bengali Muslim villages where women were not allowed to cycle, we started cycle teaching camps. Okay, and so I was there in this one camp, and so these Vaidevs are all teaching each other how to cycle. We are supporting each other, and we thought the men would actually, pose a barrier, and the men would say no, okay to it. Some men did, but some men like this husband, yeah, he came to help look after the children while the wives were learning how to cycle. Okay, so many a times when we talk of women's empowerment, a lot of the barriers are also in our heads. Because many of us are socialized to believe, yeah, in our own fears. Yeah, from yesterday I've been talking about this tape which runs in our own heads, that women can do only this, men can do this, men will react this way, women will react that way. A lot is also in our heads. Communities can surprise us, and sometimes very beautifully. Okay, so I'm just saying that, maybe we should push the envelope a little bit. Yeah, so this was a very, very beautiful surprise, and so this was something to do with the cycle bank. So something as simple as a cycle, as a tool for women's empowerment. So in your own departments, in your own work, you will have to search for that tool. What is it can help women come up? Okay, and what is it that men can also contribute to create a more equitable society? Okay. My next is I want to talk about kabaddi. How many of you ever played kabaddi before? Yeah, kabaddi? Huh? When you all were kids? Yeah. So what happened was, from day one, yesterday we had a question again, no? How much of leisure time do women have? If you look at women's days, from morning till night, it's work, 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 work. You're rushing from activity to another. You're rushing to beat time. Women many a times don't have time to play, to have fun, to laugh, to hang around the tea shop, to adda, to do adda, what we call, just hanging around, So, from day one of our thing, we've always said that women also need to have some space, to have leisure, play, and all. So, doing all of that, our women this was a women's group in a place called Koila Moila, which is on the Bhutan border. They decided that we want to have a kabaddi tournament. Okay. Yeah? And they decided that only married women kabaddi tournament. Okay, not for girls, because girls anyway go to school, they get to play, all that. So we married women want to have a kabaddi tournament. We said, wow, very good idea. Okay, and we said, let's support them. We didn't realize that the reaction of the men would be so negative. Okay, so the women went ahead and they announced that we will have an all women's kabaddi tournament on so and so, during so and so time, so and so week, and then please join. What happened was that the men reacted so badly. They said that our wives playing out in the open in public in front of other people. Okay, this is not done. We can't have like women playing like, boys, men out there. Wives stopped talking to husbands. Husbands stopped talking to wives. There was big fight in the households. And we said, hello, what happened? We also got scared, okay? So we said, maybe we should back out a little bit. So we tried telling these women, maybe next year we'll have a tournament. Okay, not this year. They said, no, we want a tournament. Okay? And the more the men push, the women got even more stubborn. Okay? And we were caught in between. And we said, okay, whatever you want to do, okay, we are with you. Okay? And interestingly then, so they went around putting posters everywhere.
To form teams and...
Yeah, form teams. And we were really surprised that 8 teams came up of married women. We didn't know so many women could play kabaddi also, okay. But 8 women from different villages came up and said, we will play. So they had the tournament. They started playing. First, the men were very resentful. The women kept playing. This is the final, okay, of the tournament. We had 2,000 people watching. Okay, 2,000 people watching, men were there cheering the women. Okay, it was really interesting an experience again for us. Again, I'm telling you, communities can surprise you in sometimes very beautiful ways, yeah, if you push. So after this tournament, the women got even more ambitious. 2014, there was this pro kabaddi league which came up in India. Lot of excitement. Earlier, kabaddi was played in villages, by things. It wasn't like a sport like cricket or football and all. Suddenly, kabaddi came on TV, okay, in 2014. And our women said, we want to play like that. Okay, we want to play like how they play on TV. Okay, so can you train us to do that? And we want to play with rules. Earlier, kabaddi didn't have that many, all these professional rules. So our pro kabaddi match was in 2014. Okay. So pro kabaddi came into India in 2014. Our women also wanted to play, first time. So, see, earlier our women used to play with their dokhana, with their mekhala chador. Suddenly, like they said, no, we want to, let's get into trousers, okay, to play. Now, shorts was a little revolutionary, okay, and they wanted to wear t-shirts, okay. So we borrowed t-shirts from the football teams. Yeah. So if you look at all the t-shirts are borrowed, but all the groups, all our village organizations of women, of the SAGs, they decided to have their own churidars. So they decided to make their own churidar and they started playing. These are women watching the match. This is a final of the match. So final of the match, I was there and we blew the whistle. Okay, see, these are the teams. Yeah. These are the two teams who are playing. All married women again, only allowed to play. And interestingly, look at her wearing shorts over the pajama. Okay. So if you look at, these are steps in women's empowerment. Okay, we move from a traditional dakhana to a churidar, but you also want to wear the shorts on top of it. Okay, so some of them actually wore shorts on top of the thing, and we said that's fine, whatever you want to do. Yeah, so the game started. We blew the whistle. The match started between these teams. Then suddenly a baby started crying. Okay. So then we had to stop the match till the mother breastfed the baby and we had to resume it. Now, why do I tell you these things? This is what happens when you work with women. Yeah? Women have many roles. Mothering is a role. Okay. And when we plan and design our programs, you'll have to keep that in mind also. If a match needs to be stopped for a woman to breastfeed a baby, so be it. Okay, you cannot apply the same rules when we design programs for women without looking at the other things. Yeah? So women have certain roles to play and we'll have to accommodate that till a time comes when women are free of those roles and can, learn how to cycle while the husband is looking after the children. Why not? Okay, so this is what actually happened. So the game went on. Yeah. This team won, and very, very interesting again. When we work with women, you have to listen to women. All these days, whenever we had games and matches and sports day for women, that our tendency was that the prizes that we give women would be like things that they can use at home. Like cups, saucer, trays. We thought that they can show their families, and they can use it at home and all that. So this time the women turned around and said, please don't give us these plates and saucers and cups and all these utensils and all that. We want medals. We want trophies. Okay. This is what the women told us. Stop giving us these cups and saucers. We also want to feel how it feels to wear a medal. Okay. Yeah. So then that's how we had medal and trophies, for that. Again, when you work with women, you'll have to listen to them. And listen to what they need, what they want. So this is very proudly holding up, okay, yeah, their cup and their trophy. Yeah, so this was our first pro kabaddi match. I'll tell you a very interesting aside after this. Yeah. So this happened in around 2014-15. We had 2 years. 2016, a village area actually announced, and this is by the men of that area, they announced a kabaddi tournament for women. And they said that our women should wear shorts and play. Okay, so women in that area actually moved on to wearing shorts. I mean, some wore, some did. But you look at the progression also of, the community. Actually moving from saying, no, you can't play, to saying, okay, women should play and we'll organize it and they can play wearing shorts, t-shirt, whatever. It's comfortable. So this was some work which we did. Again, things that you don't really think of, kabaddi can also be a tool of women's empowerment. This is my last example I'll give you. And this is, we have traditional music. Bodo bands, traditional music in our area. Usually it's the boys who play the instruments. Yeah, only the boys play the instruments and the girls do the dancing. Now, many places we find that the same. Okay, in traditional music, folk music and all, that's the case. So the gender roles are very, very strict. So even in our area, it was the same. And we started this band in 2014. So this is how it was. Yeah, these are the traditional sipong, ham and Serja, played by the boys. In our area, even boys had forgotten how to play it. So we started training them to start using that. But only the boys did that. 2015, these two girls decided they wanted to learn. Okay. So out of their own interest, and because they were good at it, one learned how to play the flute and one learned how to play a drum. That's Bijuli and Daisy. And we got a bit scared because here they were like trespassing, traditional women and men areas. Okay. And so we were a bit worried, but I was also a little excited. So I said, can we then push more girls? There must be more girls who want to learn how to play an instrument. May not necessarily be very good dancers, but they could be musicians. But will the community accept or not? Will we be called anti-traditional? We could be charged with that. And here I'm not Bodo. Yeah, I'm Chinese. Okay, going to an area and you're actually playing with traditions of people. Culture. And would that be allowed? Huh?
It's culture. For them. It's like,
yeah. So you could be called anti-culture. You could be many things. But then you look at also girls' empowerment. If girls want to learn to play instrument and they're good at it, as human beings, if boys want to learn dancing, why not? If girls want to play instrument, why not? So keeping that principle in mind, we thought, let's try something. And interestingly, again, I'll tell you that communities can surprise you beautifully. We were very worried. Whether the Bodo Sahitya Sabha is your largest, your biggest cultural organization amongst the Bodos, held in high respect, sacred. Okay. They, in their annual meeting, actually invited Biju and Daisy to come and lead the procession of the entire Sabha, where there were thousands of people. Okay. So they were actually progressive and open, and the fear was on our side. Okay. So again, I'm saying maybe we need to push a little bit, and then communities actually have the chance to rise to their greatness. Okay. So that's what happened with this. 2016, I got a small award. It was called Man of the Year Award from some local organization. But there was 25,000 rupees cash prize in that. And we said, with that 25,000 rupees, can we organize a workshop for girls to learn to play music? Okay. So with that money, we started this workshop. So here you see boys are teaching girls. Yeah, in 2016. Girls started picking up musical instruments. And 2016, we had our first band of only girls. Okay, so we trained a whole load of girl musicians. And today, they can actually go and play. They are quite a well-known name today. And they go and perform in many places. And it's become a norm now for girls and boys to both learn together. Yeah. So that was the first band ever in Bodoland of only girls. Yeah. But now you look at this. So now every summer holidays, we have these workshops. Yeah? And over 250 children and youth have learned to play the musical instrument. And nobody even thinks that girls cannot play. So it's become a cultural norm now over here. Okay, at least in this area. And this is my favorite again. This is 2017. Who do you think is teaching who? So here the girls are teaching now the boys to play. Okay. So, and I'm very, very happy that I've seen this in one lifetime. Because gender change takes a long time. Yeah. Gender norms, gender stereotypes, barriers have come down from generations. Okay, it takes a long time to change. But it's possible, is what I'm trying to tell you. Okay, it's possible in our lifetime to see certain changes. Yeah, we push at it. So these were 3 examples I just wanted to tell you. But I also want to tell you that, it's not enough to just change in the community. What about ourselves? What about the offices where we work? What about the departments where we work? What about the NGO where I work? is, do we have a gender lens in that? How are women getting empowered in that? That was something that we felt that it's not enough that we always do outside. That only the women in the community needs to be empowered, but within, how equal are we? Okay, so therefore, like as an organization, I think we've tried to push this agenda, not always successful. I must tell you that also. Though we are sensitive, we are not always successful. Sometimes there's a lot of gender imbalance which happens in organizations. But at least do we have the sensitivity and the lens to try and create that? So motorcycles is one thing that we've always pushed. See, a motorcycle is a very man kind of a symbol. But also a motorcycle in our place was critical for women to go from one place to another. Like we have rivers, I showed you. We have boats. At that time, we didn't have bridges. A scooty cannot do the same work because scooty has very small tires.
Even now, bridges are very rare. Lots of places no bridges.
No bridges
even now.
in many places, even now. Okay, so we have to push our motorcycle onto boats, and from the boat, then you reach the other side. Okay. Also motorcycle you can get repair people everywhere because men ride motorcycles. Scooties were not very popular in the village many years ago. Now you see many more scooties. But scooties break down more and the tires are very small, they slip more in rains. And we have a very, very long monsoon period in Assam. So for us it was very important for women to get onto motorcycles. Okay, so therefore that is one way that the organization promoted women's leadership. What tends to happen is that, in an NGO, I'm talking of the NGO context, in an NGO, usually the lowest level staff who are working in villages, you'll find a lot of women. Because they don't need to go very far. They can just walk and cycle. But as soon as it comes to supervisory position, management, it turns to more and more men. Because women then cannot access the outside very easily. They are not mobile. So mobility is very important for women's leadership. Okay, so this is Hasina and Noni. They are both from the village. Yeah, if you see, Hasina is a Muslim girl, okay, from our community. When Hasina first started riding the motorcycle, one of our uncles came and threatened that he will break her leg. Okay, if she rode the motorcycle. He said, you go on a scooty, you go on other more womanly things. No, why do you need a motorcycle? But Hasina, for her to rise to supervisory level, had to get onto a motorcycle. Yeah, so we supported in that. We counter-threatened, spoke to the family, and she kept riding the motorcycle till even while she was pregnant, the baby was born. After she got married, she still rode the motorcycle. Okay, and Noni also rides. But it's not enough that you just ask women to ride a motorcycle. For example, if traditional clothes, are more accepted in our villages than non-traditional clothes. But traditional clothes are very restrictive. Okay, how do you get onto a motorcycle with that? So we actually had to get the fashion designers to design clothes which looked like traditional clothes but had a split. That women could wear it like pants, get onto a motorcycle, when they get off it looks like their traditional dress. So again, I'm telling you that when you work with women's empowerment, you'll have to think out of the box. Yeah? You'll have to think differently to challenge. We have an all-women accounts team for 20 years now. So women accounts, again, women and accounting, not traditional. So you'll have to look at non-traditional women's roles and challenge that. Yeah. So we've always had a women's accounting team, and we have one of the best accounting systems in our sector. A woman is a driver is a woman. This is Ulupi. She was a young widow, okay, with a child, young child, and so we said again driving. It's a very, very man kind of a role, right? And so we always wanted a woman driver. So she got trained for 6 months in Jaipur. We sent her there. She learned a lot of skills like self-defense, confidence, many things. And she's been our driver now for the past 10 years. And so she's a young widow. Ulupi is just this short. So the first time she came back from her training, we had a Bolero. And she had learned how to drive on an Alto, in Jaipur. Bolero is much higher than an Alto. So I remember first time we went driving, we had to go and buy her 2 pillows. So she could sit on the pillow so her legs could touch the brake and the accelerate. Yeah, but she's done it 10 years and she says she likes the Bolero more than what we have now, the regular car. Okay. So I'm again saying that, when you talk women's empowerment, we have to think of it different. Any questions in this? I'll just pause for a little while. Any thoughts, any questions? How did you feel hearing this? Again, no way I'm saying that these are the only models. I'm just giving you some examples of what the possibilities are when we say gender inequality and work actions. No questions? Can I move on? Okay. Okay. So I'll just move on. I'm going to talk of this one work, one project, which many of you also mentioned about domestic violence. So in our area also we have domestic violence and around 50% of our women have faced violence in the past 1 year from their spouse. So we are largely talking about spousal and intimate partner violence that we are talking about within the home. Okay. And I want to show you this from the lens of this framework. Yeah. And what does this framework actually mean? So this framework has 2 axes of change. There are 2 different axes on which we measure gender empowerment or change. Okay. And this framework is from this group called Gender at Work. Yeah. And I'm just using their framework. One is changes at which level? Is it at the individual level, few people are changing? Or is it many people, a mass level change? Yeah. So whether some people are changing, but a smaller group, and here you have lot of people changing. Okay. Again, I'm talking of changing in terms of empowerment. Yeah. And the next is here, is the change informal? What do we mean by informal? Anybody? And what do you mean by formal? Anybody understands these things? Informal and formal? How do you understand that? What does a very formal thing mean? Rules, laws, policy, written, yeah, formalized. And informal means unwritten. Yeah. For example, when a guest comes to your house, what do we usually do when guests come to our house? How do we greet? What do we greet? Okay. But what do we do? How do you greet guests? What do you give them to eat, drink? Is there any way? We shake hands, we offer tea. Yeah, there are some customs which we follow, no? Is that written in any rules? Is it written anywhere? Is there a policy that when a guest comes to your house, this is how you behave? Eh? No, no. But why do we behave like that? It's our culture, isn't it? It's part of us. There's no need to write anything. So that's called informal. When it's not written anywhere, when it is not formalized, yet many people follow it, and we call that as culture. Okay? You understand this? And that is a more formal. There are laws, and today we'll talk of the laws. There are laws, there are policy, there are schemes that comes under formal. Okay. So these are the four various, two axes on which change can happen. Now, in that, if it is women's access to resources and opportunities, okay, it is few people are getting, okay, and it is a formalized, because here you need money, right? For example, we have one-stop centers here, no? We have one-stop centers for women, yeah? So, one-stop centers, to set it up, what do you need? You need money or not? You need resources or not? So, earlier, one-stop centers were not available to women, and now women have access to it. Okay? So, this is at the realm of change, that where women did not have access, now you made some resources accessible to them, some material resources. For example, in villages, we never had self-help groups. Women never saved before. There was no platform for women to come together. We've created that platform. Okay, we've created self-help groups. Banks were not there for women to save money. We've set up, like, let's say, I don't know what is banking correspondence, BCs in very rural areas. Those have become, so that's a level of change in which women are starting to access resources they never had before. Okay, that's one level of change. It is formal and few are accessing. Are all women accessing one-stop centers? No. Because there are very few. Okay, so few women are accessing, so we call it as individual change. Okay, and in our project, what we did was, we set up a legal aid center. Earlier, people didn't have access to legal aid. Okay, so setting up a legal aid center, setting up counseling services. We also gave women survivors of violence some means of income. Because here you're physically getting beaten, mentally you're getting tortured, and you don't have any space to go to because you don't have an income. So to get out of that violence, you need some resources. Is this okay? So this is what we did. I'll talk a bit more about that. But this is where we call that change is at that level. The second level of change is changing consciousness. For the longest of time, for almost 15 years, our organization worked only with women when we were dealing with women's issues. But suddenly one light bulb came, in our heads, that working with women is not enough. You have to change the men's and boys in order to create change. So therefore, starting also somewhere there, that you change mindset. Some of you from morning have been saying a lot of this issue is about mindset. This whole mindset of patriarchy, this whole mindset of stereotype, this whole mindset of bias, okay, the whole mindset that I can only do this, I can't do this, all those mindsets, changing that is what we call as changing consciousness. So this is one level of change. Again, informal but restricted to few people. Okay. And this quadrant over here is what we call as formal change, policy, law, scheme. And is it only for few people when you make a policy? So if Meghalaya makes a policy, who will it be for? The whole state, right? So therefore, a lot of people will get it. Okay, so that change is also important. Yeah. So formal laws, policies, all arrangements, schemes, all that. Yeah. So what we did was we started working with the legal system. So we started having like a lot of trainings for police, judges. Yeah. So we've trained every single thana in our district on gender, on domestic violence, on their role as police. Okay, because women, when they go to a police station, if the police are not sensitized, they tell you, oh, you go home, it's your problem, you deal with it. Okay, and for a woman to reach till a police station is a very big step. Women just don't go to the police like that. Okay, and then when they get turned away, don't do it. So sensitization of the police force was very important. Working with them, working with their problems. Many a times in our state, we saw that the police, even if they needed to go to a village to get witnesses, there was no money for fuel. They didn't have any extra, resources allocated. So therefore, working with the police, working with judges was very important. Because judges were not even sensitized to the kind of judgments they were giving. So therefore, we had colloquiums, we have seminars with judges. So working with this level helps you do mass change. But the most difficult and important level is this. What was one example we just took? Where you don't need anything written. We just said now, no? When guests, how we treat guests, what did we say it was? Part of our culture. Na? This is a level of what we call deep culture. When it becomes a part of the culture, then you and I don't need to work on it. That change has happened. And culture affects a large number of people. Okay, but getting to this level of empowerment is the challenge, but possible. I gave you an example of the band, right? The music. In our area, at least in our district, amongst the Bodo population, we can say that we managed to change the culture. Earlier, only girls danced, boys played music, now both do. Okay, so that culture change has happened. So to do that, we've had to work with boys, girls in schools, in colleges, yeah, and talk to them about gender, what's happening, and what they can do. Okay, we had to talk to a lot of men. So men are part of our response groups, our DV response group in different villages. Now what we are doing is we are actually training, like what you have your Kambashno, yeah, your headman and all that. We are training all our headmen. We are training all our local governance people, secretary, president of our village committees into gender. Because people go to them when they have a problem and they have to know how to deal with it. Okay. So when they start doing that, then we can step back. Because then your culture is kind of formed. So that is called deep. So this is the framework that I wanted to present before you. So when you plan your change work, when you plan your transformation, when your department wants to plan something to do with women, where is the change you are trying to bring about? Are you only bringing resource level change, material level change? Are you bringing only mindset change? Are you also working somewhere on policy? And what about deep culture? How do you change that? And this may not happen overnight. But if we want gender transformation to happen, to be more equal for men and women, somewhere we'll have to work on all of this. Yeah. So my also request to you is that please examine when you plan which level of change you are planning. If you plan for only one level, if you have only one single activity, then only one thing will change. It's important, but it may not transform. One example is SHGs. What do the SHGs in our village actually do nowadays? Self-help group. They give out loans, they do saving. That's important. But which level of change are they doing? Yeah, it's few individuals. The poorest in our villages still are not part of SHGs. Even if they are unable to take full advantage of it. At least that's our experience, in our villages. So SHGs are important, very good idea. But if SHGs only do loan and savings, which is a level of change it is? How do you point this? Here. Oh, I found this. It's this level of change only. They are getting access to loan, money, yeah, but it is only this level of change. Okay. But when SHGs also start asking the question, why are we getting beaten? What's happening to us? Why are women not able to move forward? Why are women not in panchayats? Why are women not in governance systems? Why are women not in decision making? Then slowly they are also thinking of this part. Okay, and then we need to have policies here. 33% of reservation for women in panchayats. Yeah, local governance systems. Why? Because women have to be part of this. Yeah. And slowly we hope by doing all of this, you push SHGs also to become more powerful and not just get money. Am I clear on this? So therefore, when you design your program, you have to design keeping things holistic. Think a bit holistic. Okay, so what I'm going to do is next, see, these are the kind of just support, I won't go through it. This is again material level change. For all of this, we had to put in money. We need some material resources. So that's why we called it resource or material level change. But this is not enough. Today I help 200 women survivors. Tomorrow that violence still happens. Again we will have more. So how do you change the culture of violence? So that men, when they have a conflict with wives or with women, they do not end up beating or inflicting violence. In which of our homes we don't have conflict? We all have disagreements, no? But that doesn't mean we end up beating, right? We are not violent. We can dialogue. So we are saying resolve conflicts through dialogue, not through violence. So therefore, how do you bring that about? By doing only this, it will not happen. So you have to get the SHGs and the communities to act. This is what I was talking about, sensitizing children, high school, men, taking oaths. Young boys in the village standing up and saying that even if the violence is not in my home, if it's in my village, it's a shame. Any case of violence in my village is not tolerable. Can boys and men start saying that? It's not just about myself, me and my home. Yeah? We've started saying that violence is a disease and that virus is everywhere. Today, if there's no violence in my home, tomorrow when my daughter marries and that disease, the virus is there of violence, she could get affected. Okay, tomorrow if my sister marries into some home, she could get affected. So we started saying this kind of language. I just spoke about this. So you get people from every religion, and we are saying violence transcends community, religion, classes. So therefore, as human beings, what can we respond? Okay. So dialogues so these are religious leaders that we've got together, Muslims, Christians, Hindus. What can you do? And the government system. That last bit of it, remember? The policy wala part. Okay. So this is the framework that I wanted to bring to you, and I'll just take you back to this. So in our cycle bank example, what did we actually change? You remember this 4 quadrant? What was here? What was here? Informal. This was formal. Up was few individuals, and here it was mass. Lot of people changed, right? Here it was, what was this here? Resource level change. So in your cycle bank, what was the resource we made available to women? Cycles. So they were given cycles, and then they had to give it as EMI. Okay, to others. So cycles on loan and cycle learning camp was the material that we put in. So for that we put in money. But this was what level of change? Mindset, consciousness change. How did we do that? We did rallies, races. Men had to be sensitized. Visibility of women cycling. Okay. And here, the policy change level was increasing women's mobility or empowerment. Okay. And slowly, what was the culture change? We saw men buying cycles for their wives, even without our loan. Okay. Accepting cycling and married women owning cycle. Like for example, one of the rules that we made for our cycle bank was, unless you knew how to cycle, you couldn't get a cycle. Because we knew that as a mother, I will take a cycle and give it to my daughter. I will never cycle. So we said, unless you know how to cycle, you cannot get a cycle. So the women first had to learn. So at least they had access to the cycle. Okay. So therefore, that was a cultural level change. Let's go to the next. The Kabaddi tournament, you remember that story? Again, what was the change? So, what did we make as material change here? Sports events and games for women as a way of empowerment. So, we organized sports, tournaments, events, games. Then, but over here, the thinking change was women dictating the kind of rules that are needed. Okay. Workshops, seminars with women on the need of women to take part in sports. And here, women wearing uniform, including shorts. Okay. Men accepting women to play. You understanding what I'm trying to say? So therefore, this one helps you. One is to plan but also analyze the kind of changes you need to bring about this framework. The last is this. And women on motorcycles. Okay. What was the material change? We actually started giving loans for women who wanted to buy motorcycles, not to men. The men were very angry. But to reach that level, we had to have gender workshops with our men and women staff. Because men have to first see, now why are we saying only women? Yeah? So women have to be given that push first. Okay, but men have to start accepting it, otherwise there'll be a rebellion. Okay, so workshops for men, acceptance by men staff of the special provisions we were making for women. Like for example, we have loans for women who want to buy laptops, motorcycles, which again village women do not usually use. For women who want to attend classes, computer classes, we give special loans. We give 5 days of leave if you want to go and make your license. Because making a license, driving license in Assam is not easy. So we understand that women need that special provision. So we give leave. So these are your material things. Keeping aside a few old bikes for women to learn. It is bound to get spoiled, right? When people learn how to ride. So who will give them a bike to learn? So you need to keep aside these material things. Yeah? Getting traditional clothes modified. women can get onto motorcycles. Okay, so these were the material level change. What is this level change? Consciousness of thinking level. I told you we had workshops and we started taking part, right? We had a gender equality policy, okay, in the organization, and money was kept aside for all of this. So without that policy, where do I get now? So very important to also have policy level change. And finally, if you see here, today, earlier it was a very strange thing. When I started riding the motorcycle around 18 years ago, people would stare. 20 years ago, yeah. People would stare because no woman would ride a motorcycle. Okay. But today it's accepted. When our staff go to the villages on their motorcycle, women accept. So that's culture level change. Men start teaching women to ride a motorcycle. Earlier not done, now again. So that is culture level change. Okay. So this is the framework that I wanted to put before you. Yeah, that's all. Thank you so much. This is what I just wanted to talk about. Questions? Any questions? Any comments? This makes sense to you. She is ready to take photos of you asking questions. So please ask.
Or even just sharing your reflections or thoughts, what's
happening in your mind.
Striked you. Or
Any thoughts? Huh? Yeah. Yeah. Very few, but happening. Still very few. That's the next level we are pushing. Traditional dancing, they keep insisting they don't look graceful enough. Okay. But so boys do modern dancing, they don't do the traditional one. So we are changing that story. Like a lot of the boys are actually teaching the girls dancing, but they themselves don't dance. In the truth. So that will be even deeper cultural change if that happens. Yeah? If we see men doing the traditional dances of the world, that would be truly revolutionary. Deep culture. Yes, you want to say something?
You are people who will able to bring up cultural transformation.
But not always. They're not always.
No, I mean you were able to.
Yeah, in some sense. Some.
So
I'm just trying to tell you it's possible.
In our state, yeah, maybe we can come up with. Right now, we don't have many people about things that like this, like the introduction of cycle, like WD. So we also as a state maybe with the other.
No, I'm sure that you have the solutions, and this is in the context of Assam, in Bodoland, in a particular context. So it does not mean that the same things will work here. But I'm saying that it's possible. But if you have some framework to plan, you might be able to make that transformation more possible.
Sure, we do have things that we can change right now.
No, and I'm sure there's a lot of work already happening here. Yeah, so many groups, so many departments, government doing good things. Can we deepen it a little bit with a more gendered lens? Is what we are saying. And plan it. Yeah, it's certain things when magic happens at times. If we are at it for long enough. So a 2-year, 1-year project, you cannot expect transformation. Okay, we'll have to think longer, think. Further,
A little louder, please.
culture of, yeah, Buddhas are largely tribal population, and it's the most indigenous of many groups over there, and they have a very unique culture, and I think they've been graceful enough to accept us, and they've been very gracious in allowing us to work with them for past 2 decades, and I think we're grateful for that. And they've been open enough to allow an outsiders to come and work with them. And I think, yeah, that's how we've been able to do with the community. And even now, this is still work in progress. No means, we have actually achieved a lot. But yeah, these are just examples we are sharing. The community has to be also open. I think we also have to be quite open in our minds that some things will work, some will fail. I'm just presenting success stories. In our 20 years, we've had 10 times the amount of failures. Okay, also. So it's like both. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Villages, we don't have pressures, right? Yeah. Men. Yeah. And it's an employment for them. Why not? And you'll be surprised that many men are actually very, very caring, very soft. They look after children very well. But we don't allow men, that opportunity to even explore that part of themselves. Like here in, I know here in Shillong and amongst the Pasi especially, I mean, I believe that children are fed, their first meal very, very quickly because mothers have to go to the field. So they're either given bananas or something, to fill their stomach. Because breastfeeding is a problem, for poor households. And, so because of that, it's also linked to a lot to do with your bow legs. The bones get deformed, you don't get enough calcium. So, can we think of also, community pressures in villages? Yeah, where, or, pressures close to where the mother's working, the fields. I don't know, we'll have to think of ways like that. So, to empower women and also children. The mothers obviously cannot stop working for a household. But how do we create those systems by which women can get more empowered? Thank you. I think we'll break for lunch now. Thank you so much.
2:30.
We come back at
2:15.
2:15.